and play on 2nd and 10. That's his youth right there.
Tagovailoa trying to make up for it. Fires to the end zone. Touchdown! Alabama wins!
Today I'll be giving my Week 13 college football rankings and reacting to the new college football playoff rankings. So my 1 through 4 are the exact same as the college football playoff rankings. I've still got Ohio State at number 1 because even though they just played another bad team, which is who they've played most of this season. This time it was against Rutgers. They were dominant, winning 42-9, like you would expect them to do. And I've still got Indiana at 2 because they didn't play, but with their last game being against Purdue, they're pretty much a guarantee to go to the Big Ten championship. And I've still got Texas A&M at 3 because they just played Samford, who's an FCS team and also a terrible FCS team, but they destroyed them 48-0, like they should. And I've still got Georgia at number 4. They just played Charlotte. They beat them 35-3. And while you would have thought they would have scored more than that, I wouldn't think anything of it because I'm sure Georgia just wasn't trying very hard for a game like this. So I've still got Ole Miss at number 5 and Texas Tech at number 6. Neither team played, and I moved Oregon up to 7 and BYU down to 8 because Oregon now has a pretty good win, and that's what I've been waiting for. I've always thought they were a better team than BYU, but the CFP moved Oregon up to 6 and Ole Miss down to 7, and I don't agree with that because while it's not known yet who's better between Oregon and Ole Miss, Oregon's win over USC, I don't think's as good as Ole Miss's win over Oklahoma, and Ole Miss has played a tougher schedule, and I left Texas Tech ahead of Oregon because Texas Tech's wins over Utah and BYU, I think, are better than the Oregon win over Southern Cal, and Texas Tech does seem to, while it is close, be a little bit more of a complete team than Oregon is. So BYU played okay, beating Cincinnati 26-14, and the CFP having BYU only at 11, I disagree with. Because while the CFP's 8 through 10, Oklahoma, Notre Dame, and Alabama, I all think would beat BYU still. BYU, if they go 11-1, they shouldn't have to be in any danger of missing out on the college football playoff. So I've got Oklahoma moved up to number 9 because Georgia Tech lost. So that's why Alabama, Miami, and Notre Dame are all 1 spot higher than I had them a week ago. Also, but I think that either Oklahoma or Notre Dame is the best of the 2 loss teams. But Oklahoma, they've played a much tougher schedule than Notre Dame has, and because Miami has the win over Notre Dame, and I have to put Miami ahead of Notre Dame because of that, it makes the most sense to have Oklahoma as the highest ranked 2 loss team. So Alabama, I've got at 10. I think they're better than all of the 2 loss teams except Oklahoma and Notre Dame. They just played an FCS team, Eastern Illinois, but they destroyed them 56-0, like you would expect them to do. So I've got Miami at number 11. They played okay against Virginia Tech, beating them at 34-17. Miami does seem to be peaking at the right time. Their defense has been really good all year. Their defensive coordinator, Corey Heatherman, was a great hire for them. He's done exactly with Miami's defense as what he did with Minnesota's defense last year. Turned what was a bad defense into a great defense in just 1 year. But Miami's offense the last several games and Carson Beck have been playing well too. And I've got Notre Dame at 12. They just played a terrible team at Syracuse, but they couldn't have really played much better, destroying them 70-7. And having Notre Dame at 9 and Miami at 12 by the CFP, I think is wrong because unless Miami were to lose this week, they need to stay ahead of Notre Dame because they beat them. So 13 through 15 in my rankings have all moved up 2 spots because Georgia Tech and Southern Cal lost. So Utah, while they did win, they sure weren't themselves on defense. Their defensive line got dominated, giving up 472 rushing yards to Kansas State, and looked like they were going to lose that game when they were behind by 10 points in the fourth quarter. And Vanderbilt, who I've got at 14, they played well, blowing out Kentucky 45-17. Well, it's not surprising what they did on defense because Kentucky doesn't have much of an offense. It is impressive what they did on offense because Kentucky does have a decent defense. And Diego Pavia set a school record for most passing yards in a game with 484. And I would take Vanderbilt over Tennessee this week, especially when Tennessee's best player and what's already been a bad secondary, Bo Carter, dumped them. And I've got Michigan at 15. They played well, even though they were playing against a terrible Maryland team. They blew them out 45-20 like they should. It's good for them that they finally found some offense because they're really going to need it this week against Ohio State. So I have Georgia Tech at 16 and Virginia at 17 because while Virginia has been playing better recently than Georgia Tech, Georgia Tech's win over Wake Forest, it does seem to be a better win than any of the wins Virginia has gotten. But Virginia, they didn't play this week. So I've got Houston at 18. They're coming off a loss, but it's not a bad loss. It was the 17-14 loss to a solid TCU team. So I don't have Houston the highest ranked of the 3 loss teams because I think they're the best 3 loss team. I actually think that Texas and SMU and USC and Tennessee would all beat Houston. It's because they beat Arizona State, who I've got right behind them at 19. And Arizona State, I still think, has the best win of all the 3 loss teams against Texas Tech. But the CFP having Texas as the highest 3 loss team, I think is acceptable because Texas does have the 2 really good wins over Oklahoma and Vanderbilt. So I've got Texas at 20 because their win over Oklahoma is a better win for sure, I would say, than any of the wins that the teams I've got ranked below them have got. Overall, I thought Texas played okay this past week against Arkansas, and Arizona State, they just played the Coach Prime Colorado Clown Show, who's the second worst team in the Big 12, but they blew them out 42-17 like you would expect them to do. Now, the CFP having a USC and Tennessee ranked ahead of Arizona State, I disagree with that because Texas Tech, who Arizona State beat, is clearly a better team to me than Michigan, who is the best team that USC has beat. And at Tennessee, they've not even beaten a good team. So I have Wake Forest at 21 and SMU at 22 because Wake Forest beat SMU and they also beat Virginia. Wake Forest, they just played an FCS team and they destroyed them though, like you would expect, 52-14. And SMU, they're coming off a very impressive win over Louisville. Now Louisville's turning out to not be a great team, but to win 38-6 is very good. And SMU, I'm starting to think now is actually the best team in the ACC. And I'm not trying to criticize SMU because they're a good team, but if SMU is the best team that ACC has, the ACC really is a dump. So I've got USC at 23 and Pittsburgh at 24. So Pittsburgh, their best win is against Georgia Tech, and I don't think Georgia Tech is as good as Michigan, the best team that USC beat. And I've got Tennessee at 25. So there are some other three lost teams like Tennessee that have not won anything big. But Tennessee, I do think is better than all of them are. And the CFP having Pittsburgh ahead of Georgia Tech, Pittsburgh at 21 and Georgia Tech at 22. I think is acceptable because Pittsburgh's coming off a win against Georgia Tech, even though Georgia Tech has the better overall record. And the CFP has Tulane ranked at 24. And if you're going to rank a group of five team, I think this is the right team. So that'll be it with this video. Please subscribe. Thanks for watching, and I'll be back soon.